Right now on ABC 10 News at 4 o'clock, a warning from Governor Newsom of a COVID surge following the holiday season. The stark prediction as we enter a new year. Plus, the La Mesa police officer at the center of a controversial arrest now facing one criminal charge. And UC San Diego students back to school after winter break. The on-campus experiment for in-person classes.
ABC 10 News at 4 starts now.
The calm before the storm. That's how Governor Gavin Newsom is describing California's COVID cases, which are expected to surge to new record highs in the coming weeks. Good afternoon. I'm Kimberly Hunt. And ABC 10 News anchor Vanessa Van Hefty explains what is now happening here to get hospital beds ready for the sickest San Diegans.
Governor Gavin Newsom with a sobering prediction. Hospitalizations and deaths will rise in the coming days and weeks due to the holiday travel. The state recorded 29,633 new cases Sunday, but the governor says the numbers are misleading due to reduced testing over the holiday weekend.
We anticipate the surge on top of a surge. It's going to put a lot of pressure on hospitals and ICUs coming out of the holidays. And so we're getting into that phase right now.
Newsom talked about the 4 people who have tested positive for the new Covet Variant strain in San Diego. Contact tracing and disease investigation is underway. He anticipates there will be other cases.
4 individuals in San Diego were identified with this UK strain. 1 is now hospitalized. We also have 2 additional individuals that we identified in San Bernardino.
Meantime, hospitals across the state are struggling to keep up with increasing cases. Hospitalizations are up 18% over the past 2 weeks. A spokesperson for the Palomar Medical Center has confirmed that patients are now being treated at the alternate care site on their property. As of this morning, there were 15 staffed beds and 10 patients receiving care. The site allows hospitals to focus on patients with the most acute needs. The National Guard also called in to run that facility. As cases surge, there's also a call to bring back the USNS Mercy back to either San Diego or Los Angeles. The ship was sent to Los Angeles last March, treating non-COVID patients to help free up hospitals. According to the Los Angeles Times, the Mercy right now remains in Portland. Vanessa Van Hefty, ABC 10 News.
Dr. Mark Galley says 4-week predictions for Southern California show demand exceeding our ICU capacity. And that means the stay-at-home order will remain in effect. The order will be lifted when ICU projections are above 15%. Right now, our capacity remains at 0%. Here are the latest coronavirus numbers in the county. Just over 3,000 new cases were reported today, bringing our total to more than 171,000. 6 more deaths were reported. Nearly 1,600 San Diegans have died.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says he is hopeful that the U.S. will improve vaccination rates in the coming weeks. Right now, U.S. sits at about 4 million people vaccinated. That includes nearly 1.5 million in the last 3 days. The head of Operation Warp Speed telling CBS around 18 million doses have been shipped nationwide. Now, Dr. Fauci says he believes President-elect Biden's plan to vaccinate 100 million people in his first 100 days in office is possible. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom hitting another milestone with vaccines. You're taking a look at this 82-year-old man who was the first person to get the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine there. Now, this comes as the nation is dealing with a surge in COVID cases, including that variant of the virus. Here in the U.S., a Colorado girl spent New Year's at home with a rare inflammatory condition that infects kids, forcing her to spend Christmas in intensive care. Kylie Caldwell's parents were diagnosed with COVID in mid-November, and when she showed no symptoms, her parents thought she just avoided the virus. So when she had an upset stomach a week before Christmas, she and her parents thought it was something that she ate. But by the week of Christmas, Kylie was in the hospital, and by Christmas Day, she was in intensive care.
I didn't know when I was going home. I didn't know if I was going to feel better. I didn't know a bunch of things, but we just kind of had to hope.
I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, it was terrifying as a mother. I couldn't do anything to make her feel better. You know, my husband and I spent the entire time she was in the hospital there with her, and you feel helpless. You can't help your child.
Kylie was dealing with what's called Miss C. Some of the symptoms include a fever and gastrointestinal issues. Doctors say multiple systems of the body become inflamed and illness can impact heart function, but doctors can only make the diagnosis if there is evidence of a previous COVID infection or known exposure.
Usually what we see is kids will have an infection about anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks before they present with this new syndrome. And the infection can be a mild infection or even an asymptomatic infection, and that could still lead to this syndrome.
Dr. Sam Dominguez is a pediatric infectious disease specialist at Children's Hospital, Colorado. He says they saw about 20 cases in December compared to just 4 or 5 in October. Since the start of the pandemic, he says there have been about 1,300 nationwide. He adds that parents need to watch for the symptoms even after the kids or family members recover from COVID.
Meantime, New York is now reporting its first known case of the new Covet variant, which was first discovered in the UK. Governor Andrew Cuomo says a man in his 60s tested positive for the variant. He does have symptoms, but he's now on the mend. The variant has also been found in a handful of cases here in San Diego. It's more contagious, but health officials say the vaccine will likely be effective against it. And British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced a new national lockdown for England today. It's expected to last until at least mid-February to fight the new coronavirus variant. Johnson warned the variant was spreading quickly and the coming weeks could be the hardest yet. Schools and colleges will be closed for in-person learning. Residents must also work from home unless it's impossible not to. The restrictions are similar to California's stay-at-home orders.
Let's start the newsfeed. The CDC is turning up efforts to track coronavirus mutations. It hopes to more than double the amount of samples that it watches a week. Mutations of this virus have spread across Europe, for example, in recent weeks. Now, South Africa's variant does appear to be causing bigger issues than that mutation that was found in the United Kingdom. South Africa is restricting flights leaving the country. The UK variant is believed to be more contagious than the original strain of coronavirus. Moderna is increasing its production of its vaccine. The company says in 2021 it will produce 20% more cases of the vaccine. That is 600 million doses. Now, the Senate runoff tomorrow doesn't just impact the state of Georgia. What happens there will have a nationwide effect and could change some people's lives for the better.
This would mean that I would get to stay here with my family, with my parents. This would mean that I would get to go to college.
We're taking a look at some of the other impacts that we could see.
A former La Mesa police officer at the center of a controversial arrest is now facing a felony charge of falsifying a police report. The San Diego DA's office made that announcement today. As ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala explains, the officer's actions ignited outrage and protests.
Hey, bro. Hey, what'd I tell you? He is pleased that something is actually being done.
Hey, bro, you can't do that. District Attorney Summer Stephan announcing a criminal charge is being filed against Matthew Dages, a former La Mesa police officer at the center of the controversial arrest of Amari Johnson back in May. In a statement, Stephan said in part, "When someone in a position of trust, such as a police officer, commits a crime, it causes tremendous harm and shakes the community's confidence in those who are sworn to protect them."
We definitely feel that more charges should be filed.
Attorney Troy Owens represents Amari Johnson in a civil suit. He says Monday's announcement of the felony charge against Dages was a step in the right direction for his client.
His initial reaction was that it was a relief and a breath of fresh air that something is actually being done.
The complaint alleges that Dages filed a police report containing false information regarding the reason for Johnson's arrest.
You're being placed under arrest for 241C, okay?
As well as his actions. Video of the incident shortly after the death of George Floyd sparked outrage and protest last year.
I have no reason to be detained by you, bro.
The officer could be seen shoving Johnson down onto a bench and handcuffing him.
There are some questions as it relates to the origin of the contact between the two of them.
After body cam video was released, the police department did not pursue charges against Johnson, and Dages was later fired. A statement from acting La Mesa Police Chief Ray Sweeney says in part, "We have worked closely with the San Diego District Attorney's Office over the past several months on this matter. The La Mesa Police Department holds each and every member of the department to the highest standards of integrity in order to protect and serve our community and keep its trust." Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
Dages' arraignment is scheduled for March 9th. If convicted of falsifying a police report, he could face up to 3 years in prison.